Hello everyone, just a quick one. You might have seen that the update 5.1 is about to be released and the patch notes are live. So I'm done with work for today, and before I'm going to cook dinner I figured I'd give you a quick overview of what's going to be changing. There's a new skill mechanic and it's called Airstrike. Well, this already tells us something because the Dutch ships are coming. So if you've seen these on PC, it's sort of like a lots of fun dropping from the sky. Let's put it that way. And it sure as hell is not tulips. So that's the thing that's going to be coming up. We'll see how that differs from the cluster bombs that we already have on the UK dive bombers. But that's the thing. And if it's a ship skill, well, yes, it's a ship skill because you're going to be having cruisers or whatnot and not actual carriers. So, okay. Let's see how that looks like. The full Italian battleship tech line will be added, although that doesn't mean that it's going to come out just now, because it does say it's going to be released at a later date. So we have the ships that we already do know about, and except for the Cristoforo Colombo, which was the one that we haven't seen yet. And the interesting thing here is that this ship gets precise aiming, which means watch your captain skills, because that's going to change your skill setup. So as usual, my reviews things were a bit to be taken with a grain of salt in that regard, because we didn't know yet what it looked like. Now we do. So you probably want the captain skills to give it another precise aim, and the marksman skill as well. This one's interesting. Compensation for duplicate items. So basically, if you get a thing that you already have, instead of getting the thing again, which you couldn't, you get money of sorts. And this affects ships, camos, portraits, and shenanigans. You get silver or gold for it. The very important bit is in the last sentence here, because my first thought was, hang on a minute, if I'm opening a crate, does that mean that I am suddenly getting, instead of premium ships or portraits or something, I'm suddenly getting silver? No, it doesn't. This does not affect crates. This is only for other stuff. So not crates. The crates work like before. If you already have a thing, and let's say there are 3 premium ships in the crate, and you already have 2 out of them, and you draw a premium ship, you get the one you don't have yet. That's how this works. Bug fixes, as usual, is disappointingly empty. I have some long-standing issues that I'd really like to resolve someday, but we'll get there. We'll never know. The Netherlands are already showing up in the filter because we're going to get Dutch ships. And, that'll be interesting. It looks like Blitz is really rapidly trying to catch up with where PC is at. A couple of things we were behind for quite a bit, but there's new stuff coming left, right, and center. So, interesting things. Ship balancing. This is what everyone's always looking forward to, isn't it? At least it goes for me. The French destroyer line has been buffed, and I would say significantly. I would agree that everything up to tier 8 seemed to be... I don't think I've actually tried a tier 7, but everything before was kind of a little bit of a grind, like very average. So this is probably not terrible, but let's go through it. The Jaguar, not a huge change. There's a little bit more torp damage. The Gepard gets better concealment and better dispersion and better engines, or better acceleration really, and the torp damage. The same thing for the Vauquelin, and that is actually quite significant. I mean, down from 6.6 to 6.2, that is noticeable. The Le Fantasque, and this is where it gets sort of interesting, because in my opinion, the Le Fantasque was already better than the Le Terrible, the premium tier 8. And now I would say that is certainly the case, because she gets the concealment down by 0.5 kilometer. So a 6.3 kilometer base detection means you could actually do a concealment build and do this as a stealth torpedo, because at the same time the torpedo range has increased to 7.2, and we get better dispersion and more damage on the torpedoes. So first of all, she actually I think the Le Terrible had torpedo range as one of the only advantages over the Le Fantasque. So that is sort of kind of pulling equal in that regard as well, and in many others. As far as I remember, I did a comparison a couple of weeks back, I think the Le Fantasque was generally a little bit better. But yeah, that is pretty significant. The Mogador gets longer range torpedoes, but noticeably does not get the concealment decrease. And I think that's only fair because that would be terrible. She also doesn't get the dispersion improvement that the Le Fantasque gets, which is interesting. And the Kléber has the same set, or that gets pretty much the same improvements. So Le Fantasque might be more interesting now because the guns are tighter in their spread, whereas once you reach tier 9 and 10, it's not quite that anymore. But yeah, interesting changes. Definitely Le Fantasque would be something that I would try again. And if you just want to stick at tier 8, especially with the concealment, that might be quite interesting. I can't remember what the concealment is on the Le Terrible, but that looks very, very different. Anyway, what else has changed? The Hiryu gets better concealment, so does the Ranger, and so do the Lexingtons. Okay. I don't really play these ships, so I can't really say if that's warranted or not, but it's a thing. And now we're looking at the other side. The British tech line, they mean the carriers here. So one big change, that the torpedo speed has been decreased. So that's the airdrop torpedo speed. Because you could drop these extremely tightly. So if you're very, very good at carriers, then you could drop a lot of torpedoes on destroyers in a very, very tight spread. So yeah, small and agile ships read destroyers, which means the torpedoes are now slower, which I am not 100% certain is going to necessarily achieve what we're trying to do here, because you could just drop them closer, I guess. But still, I mean, it is definitely an improvement, and it'll make dodging probably a little bit easier. I haven't really run into this very much as destroyers. The only destroyers I've played in high tiers recently were the French ones, and nobody could hit these with torpedoes anyway, so that wasn't so much of an issue. This does not apply to the Ark Royal. And the lower tier British carriers get increased torpedo damage. Okay, sure, that's the thing. So the Hermes gets up by 100 points. Furious and Illustrious get it up a little bit by 50 points, not a huge difference. But with the Implacable, it gets interesting because the Implacable gets some significant donks in the face really here. The preparation time increased, dispersion increased by 14%. So effectively, it makes it harder to hit smaller targets with dive bombers. And the penetration decreased as well, which means they can't do they won't do as many full pens in terms of deck penetration on larger targets, I guess, or smaller ones if they can see. Although I don't think that 10% is going to make a difference with a destroyer, which basically has no armor. And torpedo preparation time up, concealment up, so pretty significant, I'd say here. Do note the conspicuous absence of the Indomitable. The premium hasn't been hit by that, by the looks of it. Audacious gets the similar treatment, although the dispersion isn't getting nerfed as badly. And the Malta, the tier 10, gets back up with the 14% again. So I'm not sure what's the difference there, but that's what that is. And all of them get the concealment increase. Now, I have heard that the British carriers, especially the high tiers, were a bit overpowered. So this is probably warranted. Once again, I can't really comment on that too much because I haven't played all of these ships. It's because it would be dreadful if I tried. I wouldn't get anything done. So I wouldn't know, even if I had, if this was warranted or not. But that's it. That's the update. So in summary, French destroyers up, British carriers down, and Dutch ships are coming. Exciting times. Right, thanks. I'll see you all tomorrow for the Lepanto review. Bye-bye until then.